this girl in the center here that I probably didn't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my selection by going to the select menu again and then selecting grow. And I'm going to grow that by 3 pixels. And now if I hit delete, you can see it's deleted more of the image behind her. By the way, these 2 colors over here, this is your active palette. There's a quick button there to switch back to white and black. If you want to change the color, you can double click and then pick the color that you want. So I just selected red. I'm going to hit Shift B for my bucket tool, go back to my background layer, and fill the entire layer with red so you can kind of see what's going on. Of course, it doesn't look very good, right? It looks like I did that with scissors. So what I might do before I delete that is I might feather my edges like we did before, and that should soften them up a little bit, and maybe not quite that much. Whoops. Of course, I want to do it on the correct layer, so I'm going to select that layer first and then delete. And that should have softened the edges a little bit. Maybe not much, should have feathered more. But you get the idea. Moving on, any questions? Okay, moving on. So those are the selection tools. Yes?
I got your background. I added a new layer. And I'm trying to change the color of the layer to the new layer. I don't know how to do that.
Okay, so you'll want to use the bucket tool. That's Shift V, or it's the one that looks like a bucket swirling paint. You can click on it and then double click on the black box there to change the color below. Select the color that you want and then click on your image to fill. Okay, so moving on to past the selection tools to some of the other draw tools. They're pretty basic and straightforward. There's the pencil tool, which gives you hard edges, the paintbrush tool, which gives you softer edges, the eraser tool, which erases, the airbrush tool, which works like an airbrush. And actually, this is a pretty handy tool if you have a tablet. You can actually change the pressure sensitivity of your tablet to affect the airbrush. So it can really work just like an airbrush might. So that's kind of fun if you have that. And then there's the ink tool, which works kind of like an ink pen. Now, most of these tools, I think everything except for the ink tool, has a brush. So I'm going to select the pencil tool here. I'm going to hit this brush icon. You can see I have a bunch of different brushes to select from. The basic one is just a circle with hard edges or a circle with soft edges. But there's some fun ones there as well. So this one's just a slash. Do that on my active layer. So you can kind of see what that brush does. There's also animated brushes. Like I think this one, Galaxy, is not animated. Sorry. I think this one is. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like Clover, and you can see as I move my mouse, it's not just stamping the same image over and over again. It's changing what I did each time. So that's an animated brush. Basically, all you need to know about brushes is that when you need a different one, you'll know. Pick the one that you need and work with it. I'm not going to demonstrate all of the drawing tools because they work pretty much how you would expect them to, with the exception of the gradient tool, which is kind of a fun one. I'm going to select the gradient tool here, and I'm going to change my colors to red and blue just so that it's a little bit more obvious as to what's going on. So now I have my gradient tool selected with red and blue as my foreground and background colors, and I've got just the basic gradients that are linear. So now I'm going to click and drag in a direction. I've gone from bottom left to top right, and it's giving me a nice fancy gradient for me to do stuff on. Check us out, we're pretty cool people. Now the length that you drag determines the size of the gradient. So here I didn't drag as far, so you'll see the gradient is much smaller. There's different types of gradients that you can apply, and there's different modes in which you can apply them. Play until your heart is content. So, let's get into some fun stuff. Now that you know kind of the basic tools and how to use them, let's do something fun. Let's take somebody out of a picture. I'm going to go to my images here. If you're following along, I'm looking at dompeep.jpg. I'm going to open that with again. This image features somebody staring over a wall, creep style, at a family walking through the zoo. I'm going to zoom in here and pan over to this picture of people. Now this seems like a pretty cool guy, but maybe I don't want him in this picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take him out. Does anybody, given the tools that we've seen so far, does anybody have any ideas of how we might do that? Magic. Magic is the, no. Yeah, actually magic is a pretty good answer because I can use the magic wand tool to select that person in sections at a time. Now if I take that person out, I'm going to be left with a big black blob behind him. And I'm probably going to want to fill that in. Now this person is standing in front of some foliage, which is very convenient for this demonstration because it's difficult to tell when somebody has copied and pasted foliage. So I'm going to take a new tool that we haven't covered yet. This is the clone tool. Basically what this tool lets you do is it lets you take a portion of the image and copy it into another section. So I'm going to select the clone tool, and I'm going to hit Control A, that's select all. Because right now I have a shirt selected and I want everything selected. So Control A, select all.
Change your brush.
And I'm going to change my brush. Thank you, that would have been kind of awkward. And I want a bigger brush than that. That looks pretty good. You can't really, I don't know if you, there we go. So that looks like a pretty good sized brush. What I'm going to do with the clone tool, the first step is to select the area that you want to clone from. So I'm going to select areas pretty close to him because I want the colors to match. You'll notice it kind of moves from dark to light to go from right to left. So when I'm working on his right side, I'm going to clone stuff from his right side. And when I'm working from his left side, I'm going to clone stuff from there. So I'm going to put the mouse over some green leaves to his right, and I'm going to hold the Control key, and you'll notice that my cursor changed, and this selects my target. So I've clicked there, and you'll notice, I don't know how well you can see that, but it left a little artifact there so I can tell where I'm cloning from. Now, wherever I click, it's going to clone that portion of the image. See that? What I want to do, of course, is I want to clone that portion of the image over my guy. Goodbye, guy. Now, every time I release the mouse button and click it again, it's resetting the target back to my original. What I don't want to do is I don't want to click and then start dragging to the left. You can kind of see, I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see my artifact moving along with my mouse cursor. So if I keep going to the left, eventually I'm going to get to my guy, and it's going to start cloning him again. And that's not good. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to click and release a few times. That way I don't get things that I want. This is, of course, kind of a trial by error thing. So as you mess up, just be aware of how to undo. Control Z is the fastest way to do it. You can also get to it from the Edit menu or from your Undo dock. So let's get rid of more of this guy. I'm going to do a new target up here, closer to his head. Get rid of him, getting rid of him. So long, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. I'm not going to get too far down because I'm going to do something else with this fence. Whoops. Now we're going to clone from the left side, so I just held Control and clicked again to select the target on his left side, and I'm cloning over there now. And I got too low, I started getting the fence. I don't want the fence. Great. So now that guy's gone. Forget about him. One of the, we'll get to that later. I need to get rid of his head though, don't I? There we go. Now if we zoom out, you can't tell that image was ever edited, can you? It looked like I did a pretty sloppy job when I was zoomed in. You're like, yeah, I can totally see circles in there. But zoomed out, that guy's an ace. Hire him. Now of course he still has this around here. So here's where I need to be a little bit more careful about my cloning. I can't just go willy-nilly all over the place because I'm not working with random leaves sticking out everywhere that are pixelated and difficult to distinguish anyways. I can actually see part of the fence here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a target on a distinguishable point, a point that I can remember. So I'm going to click right in the elbow of this joint here. And now, wherever I click, remember, wherever I put that mouse down for the first time, it's going to clone that exact same spot. So I want the elbow of the fence to be right here. And there I've got my elbow. And maybe I want another elbow right here. Bam, another elbow. And I'm going to clone this area here and get rid of that. Yeah, it's looking much better. What do you think? Now there's no guy. Guy's gone. Hasta la vista. So we've just removed the guy from a photo. We didn't do a very good job because I did it kind of fast, and I'm sure that if you were doing it, you would be a lot more tedious. So, any questions about that? That's the clone tool. Works great, works wonders. If we want to, let's say we want to add somebody to that picture. That's not right? There's a shoulder there, nobody's pushing it. Who's taking care of that child? Somebody needs to be. Maybe not Obama. Maybe we can get somebody from this picture. This picture here. Now, I've just opened the image again, and I can select from this image and copy and paste into my other image, but that's not what I want to do. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to close that image, don't save it. I'm going to hit File, Open as Layers. What that's going to do for me is it's going to open that image as a layer in this image. So now I've got my ugly sweaters layer and my original layer on top of each other. You notice that the images are different sizes. And if I want to make my image match the same size, I can hit the image and then fit canvas to layers, which will make it the overall size of all of the combined layers. I don't really care. I'm just going to work with this image here. I'm going to select this person here on the left. And to do it, I'm going to use the free select tool. Now, instead of clicking and dragging around the person, because it's going to get kind of tight in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to release before I close the loop, and that will allow me to select within a straight line, which makes it a little bit easier for me to navigate. So now I've got that person selected. Of course, I don't want to get rid of that person. I want to get rid of everybody else. So I'm going to invert my selection. I can do that from the Select menu or by hitting Control-I, and I'm going to hit the Delete key. So I've deleted everybody else, and what did you notice? Right. So I'm going to undo that. What I need to do with this is I need to add an alpha channel before I'll get transparency. So now we've got that person selected, and now I'm going to hit delete, and now they go away, and the background color isn't there. So the next step in this process probably is clean up some of this wall. The way that we covered to do this is with the Magic Wand tool, so I'm going to use that here. Now instead of dragging down to increase my threshold, because you can see I can't go very far without getting her sweater involved in the mix, and believe me, you don't want to get that sweater involved. So instead of increasing my threshold, I'm going to click once to select a region. Then I'm going to hold down my Shift key, which you'll notice changed the mode and changed my icon to add. I'm going to add to the selection. So I'm going to click again over here. Whoop, Control Z to undo. Click again, and here I obviously need to decrease my threshold a little bit. And I'm going to click down here and grab some of that action, and down here in the corner, and a little bit more. And maybe in that little nook, and in there, and down here, and over there, and over here too. And down here as well. So I've got quite a bit of the wall selected there. I can't really tell what's going on down here, so I'm going to change to my zoom tool by hitting the Z button or selecting the zoom tool from the toolbox. I'm going to draw a rectangle around there, and I'm going to turn off the background just so that I can see more clearly. There's maybe a wall outlet that was selected there, and it's not part of my current selection, so I need to add it. So I'm going to switch back to my Magic Wand tool, hold the Shift key again to add to my selection. And I'm going to add that whole mess. Of course, at any time I can switch to any of my other select tools, such as select by color, rectangle select, elliptical select, and use those to select the portions that I need as well. So now I've got a pretty decent selection. I'm going to hit delete, and there's my lady. Now you can see I've still got a little rough around the edges there, so I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool. Actually, I'm going to use the Select by Color tool. And you'll notice that there's a checkbox here, Select Transparent Areas. So right now, that area between her knees there is not currently part of my selection because I used the Magic Wand tool and I clicked on the outside, and that's not contiguous. But if I use Select by Color, it's going to select all matches to that color, whether it's contiguous or not. So there I've got everything that's transparent selected on this layer. There's a quicker way to do it, perhaps. If you right-click on the layer, you can do Alpha 2 selection, which will give you the same result. I'm going to increase my selection. I'm going to grow it, maybe by 1 pixel, maybe by another pixel. So you'll buy 3 total, so I'm going to add 2 more. And